Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Embry. I am the Director of Marketing here at Travel Media Group, and I want to first thank everyone for taking the time to join us on our first ever virtual roadshow. This is our fourth stop, in Southern California. We are very excited to share this presentation with you all. If you have any follow-up questions with the content I'm be sharing, I will be providing my direct contact information. You can also use the chat feature, which is located in your toolbar, to type any sort of questions or feedback. We will be responding to those questions personally following the conclusion of the presentation. Now, also be on the lookout since today's event will feature an interactive poll and would absolutely love your participation in it. So let's go ahead and get started and introduce who will be driving the roadshow today. So hello again, my name is Ryan Embry, again, Director of Marketing at Travel Media Group, and with me today is Michael Voss. Michael, welcome to the roadshow.
Hey Ryan, it's great to be here. I'm super excited and look forward to hearing everything about Southern California.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot of great data and insights. We're going to bring Michael back into the fold at the end of the presentation. He's going to go a little bit more in depth on what we talk about since this is his specialty. He's the Hospitality Solutions Advisor for the Southern California area. So let's go ahead and jump into it. What are we going to be covering today, right? The first thing what we're going to do is we're going to look at what travelers are searching for when it comes to Southern California travel. Then we're going to look at some reputation trends, right? How hotels are trending with positive, neutral, and negative reviews, and even review response, which in this particular presentation is a little scary. And then what are guests actually leaving in these reviews, right? Can we pull some patterns and trends? We're going to look at some of the top 3 positive and negative aspects of the hotel experience in Southern California, according to real guest feedback. And then how can we leverage that using our social media platforms and channel, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And then finally, we're going to bring Michael back, and he's just going to give us some more insight, market analytics, and data. So let's go ahead and jump in. And for this, where we start, we've got tons of great news to share for the entire Southern California region when it comes to what travelers are searching. This is certainly a welcome sign for the industry. The search hotels in San Diego, over 300 times per month is search. That's an increase year over year, 83%. We put Los Angeles in that, 135,000 per month, up 49%. And Anaheim, up 86%. So again, all good news for this region. More and more people searching, but what that means is more competition that's going to be looking at things like your reputation, your social media, and determining where they're going to travel. So super important. Some other just really, really telling facts here. The search volume for downtown LA hotels up 50%. This is a great statistic. We see people becoming, especially in California, we know, more comfortable with coming into maybe some crowded areas that they weren't last year in 2021 and certainly weren't in 2020. This could also be an early signal to the return of the business traveler. Fingers crossed, because we know how much we've been missing that and really heavily relying on leisure travel right now to fill our rooms. Now, speaking of leisure travel, search volume for events in LA this weekend up 132%. And we saw this in other places, not just LA, San Diego, Anaheim. People are looking for events to do, and they're looking for it now. So quick road trips, last minute occupancy. If you have any deals, specials, or promotions, this is a great way to capture that. But you also want to make sure your social feed is talking about the events in your area and where you are in proximity to those locations where the events are going to be taking place. The search 5-star hotels in San Diego up 86%. Now this is a trend that I'll pair with the next statistic, which is cheap hotels in San Diego is also up 49% over the last 3 months. So people want the quality of the best, but they also are taking a very, very close look at price, right? And we know that hotel ADR is at an all-time high right now for the industry. It's great. But as we know, the hot topic right now when it comes to consumers is inflation. They're looking at their gas pricing, their grocery bills closer. The next thing they're going to be looking at is prices for their vacation. But what you can see from that 5-star hotels is they're not going to sacrifice quality there. So we have to give them value as well. And the last thing we saw is free things to do, up a significant amount over the last 3 months. I predict that we're going to continue to see this as inflation is still a hot topic right now. So this is a great signal to us to maybe put some things. I know it's tempting to put Disneyland and all these attractions in LA, but maybe include some free things to do, which could gain interest from your travelers because that's what they're searching for. So let's get into the reputation trends, right? So we went ahead and looked at total market reviews, over 260,000 reviews this region's getting. Majority of them are positive, right? So almost 7 out of 10 of all reviews that are coming in are positive reviews. That average review response rate that I talked about earlier, under 50%. So if you're a hotelier listening to this in this region and you are not taking advantage of responding to reviews, you've got a great opportunity, because if it comes down to what you or your hotel next door is doing, this could be a key differentiator here. And that's what we do. We partner with hotels in review response to make sure that our hotel partners have a 100% review response rate. So let's get even more competitive, right? What's the top 25 look? This is where a lot of our hotels would end up. That means that they can start charging more for their rooms, and they obviously will capture more occupancy. This gets a lot more competitive when we get into this place. Almost 9 out of 10 reviews are positive here. So if you want to be in that top 25%, you have to make sure that you have some sort of reputation strategy in place. And then again, average review response rate still just over 50%. So huge opportunity there for hotels responding to reviews in this market. So now that we've seen, the good and the bad, where are these reviews being left? And a majority of them, like the other kind of virtual roadshow stops that we've taken, we've almost have 60% of the reviews being left in this market, either on TripAdvisor and Google, which is great news for our hotel reputation partners, because those are the two sites that we directly help with their reviews. So this is something also to consider if you don't have a very high review flow on TripAdvisor or Google. That must mean these other OTAs, you're not getting as much market share though. So again, that's where a really, really good reputation strategy comes into play to help you with that. So when the reviews are left, where are they being left? Where are people most positive? And we see that being on TripAdvisor and actually Expedia there too. So what I like to point out in this slide is essentially saying, if you're not seeing a majority of your TripAdvisor or Expedia reviews as positive, it's very likely that these other places, Google and Booking, which we know are so important to hotels, it's very likely that you're not seeing as much positive sentiment there. Another indicator that you could need a reputation program in place. So we talked about at the very beginning, sentiment trends. So what we did is looked at all of the sentiment within these reviews and saw the top 3. Number 1, attractions, right? People are really thrilled about the Southern California location and attractions. This needs to be a staple of your hotel social feed on Instagram, hashtags. This is great. Breakfast. This was a surprising trend that we saw, because in other markets that we saw, sometimes this ended up in the bottom 3. And it's because right now the hotel industry is going through this big kind of spectrum of how breakfast is handled. Some people are still in the or right in the middle of the COVID pandemic days where they're not serving a full breakfast because they might not have the staff to do so, or just because of restriction-wise can't do so. Other hotels are back to the full breakfast buffet that we've known for decades in the industry. So this is great to know that when travelers are coming, they're actually thinking very positively about the breakfast experience. And then lastly, cleanliness. This is also fantastic to see at a time where we know a lot of hotels have put a lot of investment into making sure that their rooms are clean and keeping a safe place and host for their travelers, that guests are appreciating this, and they're seeing that in their reflected in their online reviews. Now let's move to the negative, right? This same tag has been at the top of every single market we've done so far in this Roadshow, odor, which makes a lot of sense. Not a lot of people are going to come onto a review and maybe talk about how nice it smells. Usually it's going to be the other way around. Price. This is a hot topic right now, as I mentioned at the beginning. With ADR being so high, the guest expectations are at another level. And if you're not meeting or exceeding them, then you're going to hear about it, about how your price is too high, the value's not there. So it's very, very important to make sure that guest experience is buttoned up, because one little slip, which could have maybe been a star here or a star there, is now being reflected in maybe a 1 or a 2-star review talking about how expensive your hotel is, and you do not want that label on place like TripAdvisor or Google. And lastly, parking. We know that this can be an issue in metropolitan areas in Southern California, but most of the 27% of the time when parking is talked about, it is done so negatively. Way we can combat that, getting ahead of it and setting expectations. And we have a great example of that in the next section where we talk about social media posts. So one of the things that we do for our social partners is we come in here and leverage the things that people seem to be ranting and raving about for the property. So we saw breakfast was one of the most positive trends. So this is a great post here. Obviously, they're using the multi-picture function. Another great way to do this might be an Instagram story on your hotel's Instagram. Cleanliness, right? So this is something that most of us have probably encountered in our travel before, forgetting a toiletry, right? So I love this post here sharing that we've got, if you forgot your toiletries, we've got you covered. But it also kind of gives that undertone of just cleanliness and care for the property. And travelers look for this stuff now, especially post-pandemic. So I just thought this was a fantastic example of cleanliness there. Events and things to do. So obviously there's a marathon coming up in just a couple of days for this post to the left here. This is super smart because they might be sold out for this weekend, but recognizing that this event happened at this time could give travelers in the future, hey, I better book here early for next year, and look at the proximity it is to this event. So this is a fantastic post, does and accomplishes a lot. And then we talked about parking, right? It doesn't all need to be about the positive sentiment. You could actually take something that might be mentioned negatively about your property and kind of get ahead of it, set expectations. So this particular post talks about the parking situation at the property. So there's different ways to take that negative and potentially, again, get ahead of it and to set the expectations, because that's where you see most of the negative feedback come from, is when expectations are not properly set. So just absolutely fantastic data. At this point, I'm going to bring Michael back into the conversation, and he's really going to give us a good view of kind of what he and his team do when it comes to an individual hotel standpoint. Michael?
Yeah, Ryan, thanks. Thanks for sharing the data. I think it's quite insightful and quite representative of what we're seeing here in the market. I think it's just a predictor of what we already know, which is that the market is becoming increasingly more competitive, and that is strictly driven around the hypersensitivity that guests have to the value of the dollar. And so when we talk about, we're partnering with hoteliers and general managers, and how are they creating the right expectation for those travelers, because they're doing so much more now. Where's the differentiator? Ryan. And I think the differentiator that's often overlooked in some of the research that we've prepared kind of reflects that. I think it reflects it quite largely. Is reviews are often overlooked. And reviews are so telling in this market. And I think that's the competitive advantage that we bring at Travel Media Group, is helping the hoteliers and the general managers bridge the gap between what they know about their property, but what guests are actually saying, because that's what matters. And why it matters is two staggering numbers. Ryan, 95% of travelers now are using online reviews to make a booking decision. I want to say that one more time. 95% of travelers are using online reviews to make a booking decision. And then if we peel the onion back even more, 62% of travelers are choosing to stay at hotels that are actively responding to the reviews. And so the big ask is why? Well, it's because they want to know the expectation. It all comes back to delivering the expectation, that hypersensitivity of the dollar. They want to make sure that when they get to the hotel and they're going through their overall stay experience, that they're going to be rewarded, right? You touched on inflation, all these other variables that go in. So when we have the opportunity, whether it's business, leisure, bleisure, whatever term we want to use, we want to make sure that our stay is what we're expecting. And I think that's the differentiator for us. So when we're partnering with these hoteliers, do we respond to reviews? Absolutely. But I think it's the fact that we take it to the next level. We give them that actionable insight. We track the sentiment because we want to be able to tell them what their guests are saying. We want to give them that actionable insight to say, hey, team, this is what our guests are saying about us. Especially, I keep hearing right now with hoteliers are going through renovations, Ryan, and having these data points to say, okay, do I need to spend money on beds, or do I need to spend money on my amenities like my pool? Well, let's go back to the reviews. Let's see what your trends are for the last 6 months. Let's see what guests are really saying, because if you invest in those places, you're setting the right expectation. You're going to increase the likelihood of your overall guest conversions. And I think that's the biggest part here in Southern California, Ryan, is just getting smarter on what we're seeing in the online forefront, and creating those partnerships and just giving those actionable insights. So it's exciting times for sure.
Absolutely, Michael. And the data is all there, right? Whether it's the market data or what Michael and his team do, which is drill into your unique property. We know every single hotel or even hotel group that's on this presentation now is unique. They have unique competitive advantage and unique sometimes issues that they run into. But you're right, unveiling the curtain, seeing what those issues are, and really marketing and advertising what people love about the property. And sometimes when you do these, I've been on these calls before. Sometimes it's surprising, So at this time, speaking of, I am going to go ahead and launch a poll before we wrap up, and I share my contact information for any hotels or hotel groups that would like this kind of tailored consultation for their group or hotel or individual hotel. And again, I'll tell you, you'll get a lot of great takeaways and insights from Michael and his team to help you with decision making at the property and really making sure your time is well spent. We know right now staffing is a huge issue. So making sure that the time that you're spending is the most valuable. So again, I'll leave this poll open for a couple more seconds for the opportunity to engage with it. And then in the second, I will be sharing my direct contact information. We did visit several other markets before we made it out to Southern California, the North Texas market, Atlanta, the greater Atlanta, and then where our headquarters are at in Orlando. So if you are a hotel group and have any sort of hotels in those areas, make sure to visit our YouTube page and you can go ahead and see those presentations as well. So I'll go ahead and close the poll at this time. Here is my direct contact information. In case you have any follow-up questions, there will be a recording of this sent out. We always get that question at the end of these. But I want to thank everyone for joining us on our Southern California Virtual Roadshow. And I want to thank Michael for joining us as well. and have a fantastic rest of your week, everyone. Thank you.